What's going on? I am super stoked to be here today because we are going to talk about the daily habits of top billing recruiters, which I know we all want to push the limits. And so I have three with me today. We have Nathan Zimmerman. What up? Kim Laipple, and Kathrine Jerald. So thank you so much. I'm going to go individually, quick little snippet of where you came from, where you are today, and even just would be great is what type of recruiting you do. Because I know people get super jazzed about that. There's so many different verticals you can be really, really successful in. I think everyone knows I'm in tech, but tech's been beat up. So where else can we go? Kim, let's start with you. Welcome.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm in life sciences, so anything pharma, biotech, anything science oriented. And I came from staffing in healthcare, been with my company for 15 years now, and fell into recruiting, didn't even know it was a thing, and can't imagine doing anything else.
Nice. I love it. By the way, as we're going through this, please put questions in here. We're here to dig, to help, to inspire. So we want the goods. Nathan, let's go to you.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invite. It's a pleasure to join my colleagues Kim and Katherine.
Mhm.
So I do recruiting for the world of private equity and asset management. A big part of my focus is real estate private equity, but we also serve the lower middle market and do some work with hedge funds and venture capital as well. Primarily on the investment side, but we tend to be kind of a one-stop shop for most of our clients. So we will handle just about any search we have, but our specialty and core expertise is front of the house investment oriented roles. 10 and a half years. Can't believe it. Really does seem like yesterday. And very much, I think, like most recruiters, it was a circuitous journey to get here. So background prior to that, generally sales and marketing. I worked in the sports industry for a while, commercial cleaning and aviation.
Wow, all over the place. Fun. All right, Kathrine, what's going on with you?
I'm focused in aero, satellite, and defense, growing and mid market companies. I, unlike most recruiters, knew about recruiting at a very young age because to get tickets to concerts and allowance money at the ripe age of 12 and 13, I had to work in our family's office, which was a recruiting search firm.
No way. That's
Yeah, so
awesome.
I grew up in a recruiting office listening to recruiters and said, "Oh, I'm never going to do that." And sure enough, came back full force and opened my own firm, El Rey Search, just about a year ago.
Wow, congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Okay. So remember everyone, we're here to connect. Put your LinkedIn over there on the right. And let's go. So I think we want to start with what are like the key moments really early on in your career that you feel made you successful in recruiting. Kathrine, I want to start with you because you have a very interesting journey where you grew up with it. But what was that moment where you're like, I'm good at this?
So, when you're growing up at a firm, you learn at a very young age what it takes to be a good recruiter, the amount of hustle factor, the amount of follow up, also the ups and downs that you just can't control. But you don't know you're good at it until that first deal that you got on your own. I'm not talking about a candidate side recruiting. I'm talking about doing your own BD, filling it yourself on a 360 desk and seeing that check roll in. And it's one thing to do it once, but then, you're only as good as your last placement or last quarter. So that first year when I was 23 years old and took home six figures, I was like, wow, I'm really not bad at this.
I love that. So your first year you hit six figures.
That was my take home. I think it was
Yeah.
320 grand at the time, but this was a little while ago.
Nice. Good for you. Nathan.
She stole my answer. I'm sure we have. I'm sure we have folks on this call though that maybe that are just client management or recruiting. So I don't want to say that that's the end all be all, but I think it maybe putting a significant amount of research in. Let's just say it doesn't have to be the placement, but I treat my desk like, and I always have like a business, and trying not to think about just making a placement or making a phone call, whatever it is, like always thinking ahead and trying to be strategic. So in the lead up to making that first full boat 360 placement was like, okay, you know what? Like, this company looks cool for that reason. I think I can resonate with their story. I think I could be a real value add to what they're trying to do from a human capital perspective. And then getting that person on the phone and like actually my belief bearing out that they indeed valued my approach. And then of course, yes, you know, when you bring in that client and then find the candidate and are able to articulate the, you know, this great story about this company and making that match. But I would say like the strategic nature, like when it all clicked, that for me was when I knew I'd found my my true calling.
I love that. You're giving me the chills because I know, like, you find that one resume and that's like the first resume you sent to the client and you place to that first person. And you're just like, nailed it. I love that. That's like the best. It's like Spidey senses working in all the right ways. Kim, what about you?
I think for me, one of the things was to find something where I knew that if I was the one in control of my income, that I was going to be good at something. Like I always waited tables or did something where there was an aspect, and I knew going to work every day and just getting the same amount of money, it just was never going to work for me. So taking that, but I also didn't want to do straight sales. Like I didn't want to do pharma sales or something like that. So to find something where I got to be creative and use a lot of things from both marketing and business development and developing the relationships for longer term process for our clients, and really seeing how I could be entrepreneurial over and over again with each company without having to move jobs to do it, really felt like home for me, where something's different all the time. And I knew that I could always adapt to that. So I think it was a combination of things for me, but definitely for me, it was like, wait, I could do this. And the more I work, the more money I'm going to make. And the smarter I work, the more money I'm going to make. So for me, that's when I knew that it was the right career for me. I knew it was where I was supposed to be.
Yeah, I love that. So commission is not for everyone. So in the chat, please
No.
put who's full commission in here. I want to know. Put in the chat. And so I think though that it excites you. Like, yeah, when you see a lower paycheck, you're like, oh, not again. Here I go again. You know, it is like that constant high, which brings me to how do you sustain that passion? You know, so Kim, you're already jamming. Let's go to you first.
So for me, I think variety is how I keep it going. One of the things that we do is we're broad based, but in a specific industry where I get to learn different jobs and different types of discoveries in medicine and different types of medication that's coming out, or a lot of new things that keep me invigorated and excited, and trying to predict where things are going to go and being able to watch companies build and succeed. So it's that ever-changing environment that the life sciences give to me. And I've always loved the science part of it. So originally I thought I was going to go to school to be a doctor and, you know, so on and so on in life. So I always love that part of it. And in some way, I feel like I'm giving to the patients by finding the right people to move medicine forward. So I think that combination of things gives me a way to feel like it's never stagnant. It's always exciting.
Well, you talk about the entrepreneur spirit where it's like you're essentially building individual companies, like, you know, one day at a time in a really different, cool way. Nice. Katherine, what about you? How do you sustain your passion? Because, you know, a lot of people will go like, how do you become the millionaire recruiter? You know, it's like, well, first of all, that's almost far easier than sustaining it over the years, because it gets hard. It's tiring.
I'm going to take a little different approach. We all like to hire people that are hungry. And we encourage them, yes, buy the Tesla, buy the big house, because we know they're going to work their asses off. I am a single mom. I got to put 2 kids through college. I live in a tiny town, population 5,000. There's no backup options. Like, I can't move. I got to fund this thing and I'm going to grow my business. And so even if you hire before you're ready, you got to figure out how to pay everybody's salary. So I'm a big fan of, hey, there aren't any better options. There's a fear of failure and we're not going to do that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. So on the other side of the coin, a lot of people fear success. So we got fear of failure, fear of success, and we have like, there's no other option. Like we got to make this happen. Oh my God, I love that. Nathan, what about you?
So I think we'll get three slightly different answers here, which is great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, mine's not going to be as noble as Kim's. I think that was actually really, really cool to hear, and I'm slightly jealous. And Katherine, I love what you're hustling for your family and all that. That's great. So we all get to that point where at the end of the day, like recruiting is not easy. And you can be great at it and doing it for a long time. Like you start to question like, okay, is this really fulfilling? Yeah, the money's really good. But so for me, I just recently reached that inflection point. And so I made a decision, like I need to change kind of what I'm doing, not at all the verticals, the clients that I serve, but try to grow a little bit. And so I'm, this year, a big focus of mine is just kind of changing what I do on a day-to-day basis, trying to take it up a level. Gosh, I love recruiting. I know like everybody's like, oh, you need to just be a rainmaker. Like nobody can recruit as good as me. So I'm a little nervous. Like, yeah, of course they can. That's just what I think. But so just trying to change my practice and how I operate, and in effect, hopefully, grow and scale the business. So that's how I'm staying motivated.
Yeah, the grow and scale. So go ahead.
No, I think wherever you are in your recruiting journey, it's going to mean something different for you, and just a slight change, in a function of your job that isn't going to change, that can be just the boost you need to give you a year or two of real drive and oomph.
Mm-hmm. The scale and continue growing and continue like kind of keeping yourself, goes back to being motivated, but like challenged. So I finally got coaching about 6 years ago, and by the way, I very highly believe in it every Wednesday at 10. But watching from the balcony is something that I was taught, where it's like, okay, look, you can do this really well. Can other people do this really well? And how do we constantly push boundaries when it comes to actual profit? And that's its own separate probably webinar. But I'm relating to you, Nathan, on the fact of like, how do I mix this up? Like, how do I entertain myself, over here? It's like, and you said making money is great, pushing those limits, making sure that you're making more money every single year, but it's still difficult because it almost like feels easy sometimes just because you've done it for so long. And it's not easy, that's for sure. So let's walk through, we get asked a lot, what does our day look like? So there are some people that just keep their calendar all willy-nilly and just kind of write it. And there's some people that do time blocking. There's some people that will do, hey, I do biz dev on Tuesday and I do sourcing on Wednesday. Like, what do your days look like? Nathan, I'll start with you.
I actually just went through this exercise and did a 2-week time tracker. And it's funny, I think when you actually do that, you find out, well, gosh, if I actually track my time, I'm going to be way more productive and work harder. I don't know if that's the point, but I'm guessing it is. Listen, we all, that whatever the expression is, best laid plans or good intentions. I don't know how that goes, but I do think there's truth in that. Your marketing calls, the best time to do that is in the morning. But ultimately, you follow the money. I mean, that's the golden rule. And if you've got to prep or debrief, and if you feel like those prep and debrief calls are critical, there's also a school of thought that, hey, maybe you don't debrief a candidate right away and let them sleep on it. But it's another question. So I try to have a plan, and I do a really good job. I tend to do my planning on the weekend, and then what happens during the week is a bit of, the invisible hand. I'm just following the market, but I go into the week with a pretty good sense of what, and I've been doing that, by the way, since before I even started this job. That whatever job I've had, that was always my plan. Like have a couple hours of quiet time to, be thoughtful about what your intentions are for the week and how you're going to go about doing that. And then the biggest thing I'll close with is don't do things that are not going to like directly move forward during the week, plan during the weekend is the best way to say it. Like, do your research, all of that stuff on the weekend. You could do it at night, but at some point you got to shut it down. So that's my biggest thing, is plan on the weekend.
Yeah. Are you a morning person or night person?
I am. I used to be a really early morning person, and then I had a child, and so my mornings are now, I try to be a bit more flexible and there for my wife, and let her have her mornings. But yeah, I'm up. I'm up somewhere between 5 and 6 every day.
Yeah, nice. Like, I was just relating to you. It's like, look, I do all of the stuff that's really going to move the needle for me in the morning because I'm a morning person. So all like the other stuff, it's like a little more lackadaisical, like vibing it on at 2, but I definitely like to plan it out for sure. Everyone in the chat are morning person, night person. What are we looking at? Kim, let's go to you. What does your typical day or week look like?
Yeah. So right now, and it took me a long time, Nate, to what you're talking about, is I am a rainmaker now. So I am not actively recruiting. I do a ton of BD, but I also run the organization and have 21 staff members. So I do go in ahead of everyone. I use that morning time to kind of prepare myself for my day, knock out some things, but in order to not let the continuous grind of BD, which is not my favorite thing to do, get the best of me and keep me engaged and creative, is working in, time blocks. I'm a heavy time blocker. But also knowing that after 2 hours of BD, I should work on something regarding our brand or something regarding marketing, or potentially working on some type of outreach program that we're going to do, or whatever that is that gets me excited to go into the next time block of BD. So I usually do some in the morning, some in the afternoon. My day is usually like core hours for BD, 9 to 11, 2 to 4, and then around lunches, catch up on emails, things like that. Open my day, close my day, at the first hour, last hour, to plan for the next day. But a lot of time blocking and maximizing every minute, because otherwise I just can't get it all done. And also making sure I'm not in my inbox constantly, because then I'm
Yes.
only reactive. So keeping it on my sent items so that I don't see the emails coming in, little tricks like that to keep me hyper focused on what's in front of me.
Yeah, I was wondering how many of you turn off notifications, or if we're constantly in
Yeah.
that. And I know I have to like shut that down. I mean, even right now, it's like I shut my Slack down right now. I'm like, I am gone for an hour. Leave me alone. Because
Yeah.
even though like this is super engaging, I'll see that come up and I'm like, oh. But I'm like, what is happening right now? This is not moving the needle for me. No. Katherine, what about you?
Like Kim, I am a big fan of time blocking. I am also a morning person. So I live in the West Coast. Most of my clients are East Coast or Central. I'm up at 5. Like you, Brianna, I got kids, Nate too. So, make sure I don't do any important calls between 7:30 and 8 when I'm shoving them out the door. 3:30, I know they're going to walk in the door. And if I'm on a recorded call, I'll put a note out. I really make a practice of not doing anything that doesn't make me money before 11 a.m. So all of my team calls, all of my follow-ups, all of that gets done later in the day, all of the marketing campaigns, even checking the email. I read, like both you and Kim had mentioned, I read Cal Newport's Deep Work, and it was like this mind-blowing realization that you are spending all of your day like switching between tasks. So it's very hard to make much progress if you do have bings, dings, texts. The texting is the hard one to step away from. Everything else I just can turn off, but the texting will get me every time.
Do you do any biz dev on text or candidate stuff on text?
All the time.
Oh, okay.
My best clients, we all text is best. I mean, they're friends. We all text.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I am a heavy Slack user. So every client of mine is on Slack. And that's how I roll with that. But I guess it's also kind of that can be a text thing. Okay, awesome. So now let's go into like what habits do we feel like has made us really successful, whether or not we started long ago or it's something that's been a game changer for us. Katherine, let's start with you.
Well, it's going to be so boring, but I know somebody else is going to say it because everybody says it first. It's really doing the hard stuff first. Whatever you dread and don't want to do, whether it's making the call saying your candidate backed out or making the 30 BD calls because you don't have the right jobs, whatever it is, you rip off the Band-Aid and do it first. And most recruiters are unsuccessful because they either don't want to do it or find an excuse not to. It's doing that tough thing first each day that makes the difference.
It's outworking the other person. That reminds me of like Mel Robbins, where she goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, poof, just doing it out of bed, make the phone call. Kim, what about you?
For me, honestly, it's trying to come up with a way to make each task something that's somewhat of a competition for myself.
Gamification.
So, yeah, I need to, as much as I just don't like making cold calls, they got to be done. So how do I make it exciting? Like, hey, can I get 10 good calls out in the next half hour? Can I get 2 people live at this company? That's my challenge to myself. Or, and it's all against me. It's not like against others in the company that I'm competing with. I'm always trying to come up with ways to get myself.
Losing her a little bit. Nate?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Like this has been my consistent thing, is like putting the hours in on the weekend. This industry is too competitive. Things move too quickly that if you're reactive, you're not going to be a big biller. I don't know, I don't know anybody in my firm or anybody I've ever met, unless your tech stack is like so advanced and everything is automated. I'm certainly not opposed to automation, but the clientele and candidates I work with are, I think, a bit more sophisticated than most, and they're certainly all smarter than me, and they can they can tell when things are automated. So I'm low volume, high touch. So that's the caveat, but I would say, like, trying not to be reactive and going upstream, as people like to say. And the time to do that for me has always been on the weekend. So I have a great life. I have a great social life. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like working all weekend.
I was thinking that. I'm like, oh man.
No. I cut loose for sure.
Nice. Well, what habits, like on a personal level, have you done anything like with that? Like, so for me, like I will go batshit if I don't work out. So I go to Orange Theory at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's kind of what gets me going. I've got a growth and success journal that I really believe in, and I have it make sure I hit every single aspect of my life, including business, because like we were talking about, we've got kids and we have other things going on, and I want to feel successful in all aspects of my life because that's what moves my needle. So Nate, do you have any like personal habit?
And I try to switch it up, like on the fitness front. I practice yoga once a week for like over 10 years. And then of course I miss a week here and there. So I don't know if that classifies me as a yogi, but I try to do it once a week. I love trail running. That's like my solo guilty pleasure when the weather's nice. And just getting outside of Denver a little bit. I ski. So of course, like, look, you have to take care of yourself. Like, this is such a stressful job. I mean, I don't know if you guys can relate, but like sleeping's so important, but it's really hard to sleep when you're a freaking recruiter because you're like, my mind doesn't shut off. And so I find that doing the physical fitness stuff helps with that. Try not to drink during the week. And so those would be like some of the personal stuff. And look, I love to read, try to rotate fiction and nonfiction, although I've like totally been just crushing like spy novels like 10 in a row, and so I need to get back to some nonfiction. But those would be the things I'd say.
I love that you brought up the books because I love fiction. I have like my little romance based in England kind of stuff, but I got so into like motivational books and everything like that I was like, it was like too much. and it didn't like do what it was supposed to do. Like I like never turned off. And so I do now rotate as well. And sometimes not even like when the book's done. It's like kind of like, oh, this week I'm going to do that. This week's another one. And it helps me focus more. Katherine, I am dying to know from you, because obviously I feel the high energy single mom thing. How I can't imagine you turning off, but how do you take care of yourself? What habits work for you?
Well, this is actually funny you're asking me right now, because I caught the kids cold. So normally I'm not this nasal, I promise. The number one daily thing, and everybody at the family firm I grew up in did it. 2:00 is when East Coast shuts down. It's 5:00, and that's West Coast 2:00. Everyone went to the gym. Like, we didn't go together. Some people would go at 1, other people at 2. Sometimes it was different gyms, but it's like, get out of the office for an hour, maybe even in an hour and a half. So I've continued that. And even, there's certain points, 10 a.m., you'll walk around the block, just weird little points during the day that gets you out. And a lot of times it's during those moments that you have the best ideas all day, because you're away from your desk. Yes. And we are all guilty of taking calls on the treadmill, despite the phone, thing as well. But it's just that part of, yes, you've got to leave the desk at some point. And, when you're a single mom and you get it, you don't have all day to give to your job. There's just not that many hours, and you got to be focused on other things too. So I ski, I golf, I chase after kids at volleyball tournaments, do all the normal stuff.
Yeah, nice. All right. So everyone, I want to know, what do we do? What habits that self-care wise that you feel really moves the needle for you? Definitely put in the comments, because there's so many great ideas. I think is really important. I actually started to also bring my dog to work, because dogs always like every hour or so, like, okay, walk time. And it's like, takes me like 5 minutes. And so it's like a win-win situation. Love that. Okay. So industry trends. They move super fast. We've seen a lot of things, especially after COVID. I feel like we've gone a little roller coaster after that. How do you all stay like on top of it? Do you stay on top of it, or do you just kind of jam because it's not, what you're doing is working? Nate, let's start with you.
Yeah, well, it's been, right, if we go back to call it like 2020, I think you have to look at everything through like a different lens. Like, so we had COVID, and then everybody except for I think a few industries were way off. 2020, 2021, I think most industries were on the upswing. 2022 was insane for everybody but tech, right? And then then midway through 2022, interest rates just shot through the roof. So this question is a little difficult to answer, because I think it depends on who your clients are, and then these sort of existential macro factors that affect I think we're now getting to a place where, barring like total insanity with the upcoming election, which is certainly a possibility, I think we're going to find our groove collectively as a country and start coming back together, maybe a touch, and that, hopefully interest rates aren't going to go up anymore, and even if it's a slow, gradual decline. So then it will get back to a real sense of normal, and we can start talking more about like industry trends, as opposed to like we're at the behest of like just crazy shit.
Yep.
So I didn't answer your question. I try to live in the moment, and as I said, stay a little bit upstream and just try to follow the money. Like, see whatever industry you're in. Doesn't matter if it's anything to do with private equity or aerospace. Like aerospace, it's like, yeah, who's getting funded, right? So those are the trends that I think that's all that matters. Where's the money?
Yeah, I like it. Katherine?
Well, we could take this from a recruiting industry or our own specific industry.
That's why I was setting this up. Who's going to go which way?
I think Nate took his personal niche industry, and obviously mine's space and defense. And regardless of whatever your industry is, I think you just got to follow your clients and, like Nate said, where the money is, and ask them what conferences you go into, those type of things. So really, I find the networking piece within recruiting to be the most valuable, even more than industry things, because that's how we find out, what tech tools are using, what's the best way to approach certain situations. The tech tools right now are just mind blowing, and having a network, we're all in the Pinnacle Society together, that really helps to leverage that is really invaluable.
Yeah. So, okay. I was wondering when we're going to talk about some tech tools. I want to know what we're using, but we have a question here. What is your sequence for BD, email, call, text, LinkedIn, or any others? What comes first? And how total many touch points before reply on average? I'm an email first, wait a day, then call, followed by immediate text if no answer. Okay. So who wants to answer that? What are our sequences for biz dev? I feel like Kim, thank you. You're back.
Sorry about that. I mean, I can answer the way that I am not structured in, like, I called this day, so I have to email this day and so on and so forth. But I am structured in, I prefer to warm the call with prior outreach. So whether that's a LinkedIn connection, whether that's an email drip campaign where I'm offering value to that company, whether it's a video that I send to everyone in an email congratulating them on an FDA approval or an IPO or some type of seed round funding, I like to get my name in front of them before I make that first cold call, hoping for some recognition. The old rule of thumb used to be about, 3 to 5 touches. Now I feel like it's probably closer to like 12. And it depends on the quality of the touches too, and the timing. You can call somebody the very first time and just hit them right as a recruiter just had a turn down and they have 6 openings and a hiring manager's yelling at them. And that first one, they're like, yes, send me your agreement. What can you get me? And then you can have ones that you call for your whole life and never get a response. So I think it's important to diversify your calls and who you're calling on and the types of organizations, but I don't have a set cadence for that. I kind of go with where I feel might lead me to success.
Yeah, I think A/B testing is super important to always go back to the data on
Yes.
what's working, including what time of the day, what days in particular. So I'm with you. I mean, timing's everything, right? And it's hard to
Yeah.
really predict, but I go back and forth on, do I do biz dev on a Friday? So first of all, I don't touch Monday ever. I feel like that's like crickets, but I would love to know your guys' thoughts. Friday, I go back and forth on, because Friday I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute, maybe they had a really bad week, like you just talked about. Maybe they just had like the candidates they thought they were going to close and didn't close, and now they're like, God, I don't even want to go into the weekend because I have so much work to do. I need help.
Yeah.
What about you,
Yeah.
Kim? What do you have any time
I
cadence?
Yeah, I don't like to call on Mondays before like 2. Sometimes I'll do Monday afternoons, but never Monday mornings.
Yeah.
And if I do any on a Friday, it's before noon.
Yeah.
I just feel like people are checked out, like they feel comfortable just hanging up on you on a Friday afternoon. They're just done. They don't want to deal with anything. They're checked out for the weekend. So I find that I get my best bang for the buck mornings, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from like, pretty early, like 8:30 maybe to maybe, 11:30, seems to be where I get the most return. But again, timing, you keep making the calls and catch the ones for timing.
Yeah. Katherine, what about you?
It's an interesting question. If we're doing a straight MPC BD and we have no referred name, then to hit it head on, I always do a LinkedIn connection first. Then I do an email, then a call, then a text, then an email, then a text. If I really like them, I'll call them a second time. For me, text is best. If they're responsive anywhere on the LinkedIn, you can hit it there too. Usually I wait approximately 3 days between them, and I don't extend it out more than a 2-week period. I like to get it within 7 to 10 days. And right now I'm really experimenting with, like Kim had mentioned, We know now it takes more like 12 touches. I'm really
Yeah.
experimenting with MPCs where I got no response, but high open rates. And then going back on LinkedIn and doing, another campaign where I'm not selling anything, whether it's, hey, listen to my podcast, because obviously I've got that, but you're more like offering a content piece or doing a congratulations, some sort of trigger, and developing that relationship in a much slower way. So that to me is way more interesting in terms of what's happening right now with the sequencing.
Okay, I gotta dig. I get anxiety from this. So I feel like I'm extremely impatient, right? And so I find like, yay, I found a job that I can be impatient at. Thanks, Mom. So the new trend, I do believe, is what you're talking about, is the slow roll, is to build the relationship and stuff like that. But the urgency, hungry recruiter inside of me hates that. So is that like a new thing you've done, or is that how you've always looked at biz stuff?
So I launched my firm a year ago. So right now everything is an experiment.
Right.
And with the amount of automation that's available and even personalized forms of automation, it's pretty stinking easy. And so what you thought was a no, you're essentially just putting into a maybe later pile. And then once a month going through and saying, whoa, why did they look at my video 20 times? Giving them a call based on that. And so you have a much warmer experience that way. And it makes BD a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they know, like, and trust you already.
I love automation so much. Nate, what's your thought process? Do you have any sequence that you like to do?
Truthfully, we've been just so blessed. Like a lot of I've ran the numbers. We average, it's pretty close, the percentage nominally of new clients as compared to the percentage of revenue, new clients to existing clients, hovers around 31% in both categories, which is kind of odd, but true. Which is, I think, a pretty healthy number every year since 2019. And the truth is that most of that new business has come through referrals. That's not healthy. That's not sustainable. And I know that. And so that's one of the main things that I'm focusing on right now is like how to go out. And not that I don't know and I'm not good at it, but I am not nearly as advanced as either of my colleagues when it comes to strategic business development. What I've done this year, and we started it midway through, or the beginning, excuse me, of Q4 last year, is I had this roadshow mentality. So we did try with Interseller to do. Interseller is a email automation tool, which is fantastic, by the way. I love the UX and all that. We didn't have great results with it, but that's probably my fault and certainly not the software's. So that said, what my team and I did is said, okay, what are some of the markets we want to get in outside of Denver? Salt Lake was the first one. So I said, all right, we're going to pick two windows in January, and we're going to be flexible, but we're going to go to Salt Lake and we're going to have meetings. And these meetings, there's going to be no expectation of walking away with the search, but we're going to set some dates. We're going to have 2 months. And I want each of you to make sure and set at least a couple meetings. We're going to collaborate on dates and all that. And then simple, we started a shared, we use Google Docs a lot for stuff at my firm. And so we started adding all the firms in Salt Lake that were, good targets for us, and use that as like a bit of a clearinghouse to just stay organized, as opposed to, starting in our ATS for a market that we don't have any presence in. Of course, once you make contact with people, you move them into Bullhorn, which is what we use. So sequencing was just like, I'm a gut feel type of guy. So always phone first. I'm old school in that way, and we're fortunate we can get pretty much anybody's cell and office line. So I always start with the phone, and then I have a couple templates, email templates that I think are really solid. And if I leave a message, I'll then follow up with the email. Wait a couple days, but there again, it's all feel. Like, I don't ever want to call somebody back within 2 days. Give them 3 days. Katherine, I love texting. For candidates, I would not want to text any client that I've not like trying to use that to generate new business. Totally personal. It sounds like it works for you. So I kind of go between call, email. For clients, I tend not to use LinkedIn. I'll do a connection request maybe, but don't send clients in-mails. So Brianna, sequencing, it's less about for me, and it's more about gut feel. But I've found that like I want to meet people in person, and so and it worked, by the way. We went to Salt Lake. We walked away with we had 7 or 8 meetings over 2 days, and we're actively working on an exclusive search at 33%, for, probably the most prestigious real estate development private equity firm, in Utah. So just setting your intention, like I'm going to go, like just ask for the meeting. Say like, look, it's not going to hurt. Like I want 15 minutes of your time. Like I promise it won't be wasted.
Yeah, so that's an interesting approach, like in person. Like if you guys can grab that, like grab it. But I think even going to those networking things, like it can be really overwhelming. And I think a lot of times we're used to being, in front of our computer and stuff, but putting those same exact, we talk about gamification. Hey, I'm going to get 5 meetings and I'm going to close 3 of them, like whatever your KPIs for yourself. I'm going to hit it from a completely different side. I haven't cold called in like 12 years. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm in tech. And everyone's, again, like I said, in front of their computer. So I definitely love sequencing. I love the connections and then the in-mail. So I'm very like automated when it comes to that kind of stuff. For me, I use Covey. So that's the getcovey.com stuff. We have to question what automation tools do we use. I dig that for sure. And that, has the same things where it's like we do have the phone numbers if we wanted to, but we have their emails, and then I do a 7-stage sequence. But I do see the benefit of probably pushing that forward. So for me, it would be in-mail connection. Here's my email sequence, and I'm going to put like my 1-pager. Can I do video? Like you're talking about, like I love seeing how many times people watch my Loom video. I think Katherine maybe said that, but like Loom video, and it just has like, here's my Calendly, here's this, and there's just so many cool things, and like we're goldfish right now. So however we want to do that, whether it's even a text, or what I actually like now is LinkedIn has that voicemail thing. So how easy is that to just real quick, hey, anytime I get a voicemail, I don't even care who it's from. I don't even look to see who it's from. I'm like, oh, cool. What are they up to? And it's just like nature of like, what do you have to say? But yeah, just kind of keeping it, focusing on what's working and what's not, I think is like crucial. And then lots of times, by the way, let's just take a little quick note, is if you're not getting the responses you want, it might not even be your method. It might be your message. So I've noticed a lot of times I train people on this, it's like, you can't talk at people. You have to think about, why is this person going to get back to me? What value add are we having? And I know we're coming up on time, but I really want to ask this question. Brand, your own personal brand is becoming more and more important in our daily habits. So would love to grasp what all 3 of you do. Katherine, if you want to start us off here.
Well, and I'm pretty fresh at it since I just went through the whole branding experience as I was launching my business, Elray Search. So my bachelor's degree is in marketing, so I'm always very interested in color and style and how to pitch to our market. And for me personally, it was a big decision because I wanted to do something different that represented diversity, since half the people we place are women execs in our industry, which is like unheard of in aerospace and defense. So I went with this poppy black and yellow and this motorcycle vibe, which is totally different from the blue suit, blue tie and suit look that most of the recruiting firms have in my space too. So I post now 5 times on LinkedIn in terms of marketing campaign. I've got a weekly newsletter. I do weekly podcasts, and all of that contribute to the branding piece.
Nice. I love it. So when you say you post 5 times, is that like every day or?
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
Okay. Got it. One time each. Nate, what are you doing?
Oh, you're not going to like this answer. I'm ultra contrarian. I like to operate in the shadows. Look, I've played with the idea of like becoming a subject matter expert and then a voice. You know, I think that's like the trajectory. I am a subject matter expert, like no doubt about it. I just want to be known as the most badass MFer like in my space. And I think that's who I am. So it's all about like the jobs and the clients. Like here again, I think my demographic is less, probably less likely to be like, oh, like, yeah, this dude, like, you know, look at his, you know, his stuff is thoughtful, like thought provoking, insightful. So again, you have to be consistent with it. And, you know, I'm so proud and excited for all the people I'm close with that have really like taken that challenge on and are doing great work. But yeah, for me, it's more about like, so our LinkedIn page, we post almost every job. There's certainly some that are exclusive or confidential that we can't post. But I found that I can check real quick and I'll shut up. But that by just posting really great jobs on my LinkedIn, my new LinkedIn page. So we launched it like a couple years ago, and I think we're like, you know, close to 15,000 followers. So I think if you've got the goods, people will follow. So goods are jobs.
There's two different approaches. There's just the one that's just keeping their head down and just, you know, killing it at their job. And there's ones that just like pick their head up and are looking for more like organic stuff. But there's two different ways to be successful. So I'm really happy that you brought that to the audience, because it's like everyone's trying to do this content game and you don't have to. Like, if that's not your bag, don't do it. If you don't feel strongly about something, don't do it. It's not, and it's also not going to be authentic, you know? So like people see right through that. Kim, what are you up to? What do you suggest?
I don't see much distinction between my brand and Scientific Search's brand, because it's been what I've been living and breathing for 15 years. So one of the things, you know, completely opposite of Nate, that we've worked really hard in is, as we went national maybe 9 years ago or so, was making sure that we had name recognition in our industry. So I push really hard to make sure all our clients and candidates are following us. You know, I've been recently pushing the staff to be engaged in that process, and I'm super proud that we're over 80,000 followers now. And yeah, so we've done, and that, I would say almost half of that is in the last 2 years. So that's something that I've spent a lot of time in, and mainly so that there is, again, that familiarity with the brand when I call places. It's all around making it easier to get into clients and have that name recognition. But I do, as far as brand recognition personally with my clients and things like that, is I want them to know that I am an extension of their organization. I want to feel part of it. I want to have access because they want me to. I want to build things with them. I want them to come to me for compensation evaluations, for you know, Glassdoor reviews, whatever those things are that they need help with, to be a partner. So I work really hard at making sure that the client knows we're not here just to send you candidates. We're here to build your business with you and watch it grow.
So I love that. Do you charge more for that? Or that's just like, so it makes it a no-brainer for them?
Correct.
Yeah. Nice. I was just thinking, I'm like, how much would I charge to do the Glassdoor stuff?
Yeah. I mean, there are times where I have charged for a non-client that needed help.
Yeah.
Somebody that couldn't afford to hire right now, but their brand was so bad they needed assistance, and I've charged to consult with them on rebuilding that brand recognition and things like that. But for existing clients that I'm actively engaged with, I would do anything that they need me to do to help them help me find the best people.
Yeah, that is actually, that's like scratching each other's back on that. And, you know, and what you're charging for a non-client, they will eventually be a client once, you know, they get everything.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love
for
it.
sure.
Love it. Love it. All right, everyone, thank you so much for staying here. I know we've passed time, but I have to just round robin really quickly because we're talking about the daily habits of top billers. We have these three amazing individuals in this room right now. If you have any questions, please put that in there. We're not going to get to them, but we could another time. But let's have one last thing. If there's one thing people get out of today in order to pump them up to make more money, to make more deals, what is that going to be? Katherine, let's start with you.
Take more risk. I think early on in my 20s, I could have gone after a lot bigger fish, but just didn't have the confidence. And I think I wasted time that way.
Nice. Kim?
I would say whatever story you tell yourself is true. So if you tell yourself you're going to fill a job, or if you tell yourself you're going to do BD and get a new account, you're going to. And if you tell yourself you're going to make 50 empty calls and not get anywhere, you're going to. So tell yourself the story you want to have happen.
Mm-hmm. I've been getting chills this entire 40, 50 minutes. Nate, what do you got? That's good.
I'm coming up empty-handed. I'm sorry.
Come on. You know how to do this. You said you're an expert here. You're an expert. What makes you an expert? How did you get there?
Yeah, be yourself. I'd say that. Like I coach people a lot in my office, and don't feel like you need to put on. I mean, be smart, be professional, but be yourself. Like, don't try to like put on.
Amazing. All right. Thank you all so much. I believe we're going to give this recording as well, but this was awesome. Make sure we connect with everyone. If you have any other questions, I know they're going to want us to do this again, but have a great day. Have a profitable day. Thanks.